All right, this is the volume retake assignment. To retake the volume test, you must complete all the assignments in the volume unit, and you also must pass this educating video. So please pay attention and try your best. Use the calculator and see how you do so you can retake this test. All right, this wants to find you the volume of a cylinder. Now remember, to find the volume of a cylinder, you've got to use the volume formula. V equals the area of the base times the height. And in order to substitute in for your area of your base, then what you need to do is you need to find the area of the base. So the area of the base equals pi r squared because it is a circle. And r stands for radius. And here's my base. It's a circle. I know the radius starts in the center of the circle and it goes halfway. So I can tell my radius is 10. So I would say pi times 10 squared equals, and if I put that in my calculator, it's going to tell me that's 100 pi. So when I substitute into my volume formula, I know my area of my base is 100 pi, so I'm going to substitute that in for capital B. H stands for height, and I know that the height goes from here to here. That's your vertical height if you turn it on itself. So that would be 10. So if I get my calculator and multiply to find my volume, I know my volume equals 100 pi times 100, which is 1,000 pi. Now I want you to do the same thing on this one. Make sure that you use the volume formula. V equals the area of the base times the height. And make sure that you find the area of the base using the area of the base equals pi times r squared. On this one, I want you to find the volume of a cone. So we know the volume of a cone is V equals 1/3 times the area of the base times the height. So the first thing I need to do is I need to make sure I know the area of the base. So the area of my base, again, is a circle. So to find the area of my base, that's going to be pi r squared. And I can tell by looking at it, my radius goes from the center of my circle halfway. So that's going to be pi times 15 squared. And when I put that in my calculator, I get 225 pi. So I'm going to substitute that back into my formula. So I know 1/3 times the area of the base, which we found was 225 pi, times the height. Now the problem here is 25 is not my height, it's slanted. So I need to find my height. So to find my height, to me it helps if I draw a right triangle. And the values on my right triangle, 25 is on the slanted side, so that would be my hypotenuse. 15 is my base, and my height is my vertical measurement, which is x. So I want to use the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. My hypotenuse always has to be c squared. And I can substitute in 15 for a or b. If I multiply out, 15 squared is 225 plus b squared. 25 squared is 625. So to solve for that, I need to use the subtraction property of equality. And that tells me that b squared is going to be 400. And to find the value of the height, I need to take the square root of 400, which is going to be 20. So that's what I'm going to substitute in for my height. When I put that in my calculator, I say 1/3 times 225 pi times 20. And that's going to give me my answer. My volume equals 1,500 pi. Now you work this one. Again, make sure you use the volume formula. This shape is a hemisphere. So I know I'm going to use the volume formula. V equals 4/3 pi times the radius to the third power. So I would want to substitute in. I know the value of my radius because it's the value that goes from the center of the circle here. So I would say pi times 11 to the third power. So I would put that in my calculator. And that's going to give me 58,564 over 3 pi. But remember, that's the volume for a sphere, and this is only half of a sphere. So to get my answer, I need to divide the volume of the sphere by 2, and that's going to give me 29,282 over 3 pi for my hemisphere. Now you try. Now we have the volume of a pyramid. Now the volume formula for a pyramid is the same as a cone, so 1/3 times the area of the base times height. So the first thing I need to do is I need to find the area of my base. My base is the bottom part, so if I look at and I highlight it, this is my base. That is a parallelogram. So my formula is going to be base times height in my parallelogram. So that's going to give me 7 times 4. So I know my area of my base is equal to 28. So I want to substitute that into my formula. So I would say 1/3 times the area of the base, which is 28, times the height of my pyramid, which is the vertical measurement. So that would be 8. So when I put my values in the calculator, that tells me my answer is 224 over 3. Notice I don't have a pi on this because I don't have a circle. Now you find the volume of this pyramid. Okay, here's a verbal problem. Find the volume of a cone whose diameter is 10 inches and the height is 6. So to me it helps if you draw the picture. So I've got a cone. I know the diameter is 10 and the height is 6. So to find the volume, I've got to use the volume formula for a cone. So to find it, I've got to find the area of the base. So the area of the base is pi r squared. R is the radius. Remember, the radius goes from the center of the circle out. So in this case, my radius would be half of 10, which is 5 squared. So the area of my base is 25 pi. So when I go substitute it back into my formula, I know the area of the base is 25 pi. Don't forget to write your pi down. Over the height, which is 6. So to work that out, I multiply 1/3 times 25 pi times 6, and my answer is 50 pi. Now you work this one. Next question. Find the volume of a sphere whose diameter is 6. So if you draw a sphere, that's a three-dimensional object. I know the diameter is 6. So I want to use my formula. Volume equals 4/3 pi times the radius to the third power. So I would say 4/3 pi. I know my radius starts in the middle of the circle and goes to the outside, so that would be half of 6, which is 3. If I put that into my calculator, 4/3 times pi times 3 to the third power, that's going to give me, my answer is 36 pi. So the volume of the sphere is 36 pi. Now you work this one. Here's another question. What is the volume of a cylinder with a radius of 3 and a height of 9/2? Again, to me it helps if I draw the picture. So I have a radius of 3, so halfway through the circle is 3, and the height is 9/2. So I want to use my formula. V equals the area of the base times the height. So the first thing I need to do is find my area of the base. My base is a circle, so I'm going to use pi r squared. Remember, r stands for radius. So if I look at my picture, my radius goes from the center of the circle to the side, so that would be 3 squared. So my area of my base is going to equal 9 pi. So to substitute in for my volume, I know my area of my base is 9 pi. Don't forget to put the pi. And the height, I found my picture here, is 9/2. So if I put that in the calculator to find the volume, I find the volume is 81 over 2 pi. Now you work this one. On this one, find the volume of the composite figure, round to the nearest tenth. Now I can see that I have two shapes in this figure. I have a cone and I have a cylinder. So I'm going to need to find the volume of both. Let's work with the cone. The volume equals 1/3 times the area of the base times the height. So I need to find the area of my base, which I know my base is a circle, and that's going to be pi times r squared. So I need to know the value of the radius. The radius goes from here, at middle of the circle. Notice that this is going to be the same exact radius as on bottom, so that would be 2 squared. So I find my area of my base is 4 pi. So when I substitute into my formula, that gives me 1/3 times 4 pi times the height of my cone. My height is my vertical side. That would be 3. So when I put that in my calculator, 1/3 times 4 pi times 3 would give me the volume of the cone is 4 pi. Next, I need to find the volume of my cylinder. So the volume formula for the cylinder is going to be volume equals the area of the base times the height. Well, I know that the base on my cylinder is the same as the base on my cone, and I've already found that area to be 4 pi. So I would say the area of the base is 4 pi, and the height is 6. So to get my answer, 4 pi times 6 would be 24 pi. And if I want the volume of the composite figure, what I need to do is I need to add the volume of the cone plus the volume of the cylinder. So my volume of my composite figure would be 4 pi plus 24 pi, which is going to give me a total of 28 pi. Now you work this one. Next question. A food manufacturer sells yogurt in cone-shaped cups with dimensions shown. To the nearest tenth, how many fluid ounces of yogurt does the cup hold? Now, when they give you a hint, that is your indication that you're going to have to set up a proportion. The first thing we need to do is find the volume of the cone. So we're going to use the formula 1/3 times the area of the base times the height. So if I want to find my area of my base, that's a circle. My base is a circle. So that's going to be pi times r squared. R stands for radius. So that goes from the center of the circle to a side. So that would be half of 8. So pi times 4 squared. So my area of my base is 16 pi. Now, I need to put that in my formula. So I would say 1/3 times 16 pi times the height, which in this case is 10. So when I work that out, I say 1/3 times 16 pi times 10. And that's going to give me 160 over 3 pi. But it wants to know how many ounces, and this is cubic centimeters, because that's the dimensions that you were given. So to work this out, I need to set up my proportion. So I'm going to say 160 over 3 pi. That's how many cubic inches over x is the same relationship as 1 cubic centimeter over 0.034 ounces. So to solve it, I want to cross multiply like I do any other fraction or any other proportion. So I would say 160 over 3 pi times 0.34, and that's going to give me x is equal to 5.7 ounces. Now you work this one. Don't forget to set up your proportion. On this one, Jason constructed 2 cylinders using metal washers. The cylinders have the same height, but one of the cylinders is slanted. We know they have the same height. Which statement is true about the cylinder? Remember Cavalieri's principle? Says that if they have the same height, which we already know, and they have equal areas of cross sections, then they're going to have the same volume. So we already know they have the same height. So now we're just looking for cross sections. That's why the answer would be D. On this one, a circular quiche with a diameter of 9 inches is cut into 6 equal slices. Circle is your key word. Quiche is an egg pie. So we got a circle. We know our diameter is 9 inches. And we know that it's been cut into 6 equal slices. So we're going to slice it like we would a pie. It wants to know the approximate area of one slice. So we want to know the area here of one slice. And the key word here is area. So we need to find the area of the circle. So the area of the circle is going to be pi times r squared. Remember, your radius is the distance from the center to the side. So that would be half of 9. So half of 9 is 4.5 squared. So that's going to give me approximately 63.6. That's my area. Now I want to find the area of one slice. So if I want to do my degree, I'll do my arc degree over 360 equals x over the area. So I know that my arc degree is going to be 360. I've divided it into 6 pieces, so I want to divide it by 6. So that's going to give me 60. So 60 over 360 equals x over 63.6. And then to solve any proportion, I cross multiply. So if I cross multiply 60 times 63.6, that gives me 3,816 equals 360x. And if I divide both sides by 360, that's going to give me x equals 10.6. Now you do this one. Be sure to get the degree of the shaded region. Triangle NOP is a right triangle with right angles shown. Which of the following is true? So if I use a trig relationship to right here, I know that if theta is y, this would be my adjacent side and this would be my hypotenuse. So that would use cosine. I know cosine y equals 7 over 8. If I use the relationship between sine and cosine of complementary angles, then I know I'm going to be looking for the opposite of cosine, which is sine, and I want it to equal 7 over 8. So I know it wouldn't be A, B, and the difference between C and D is 7 over 8. So that would be my answer. You work this one. In a coordinate plane, PQ is a result of the dilation of segment XY by a scale factor of 1/2. What is the center point of... So to do that one, you need to connect your corresponding points and find where they meet. So if I look and see where they meet, they're going to meet over here. So that's x coordinate -4 and y coordinate 0. You do this one. In a triangle, GH is congruent or parallel to DF. What is the length of GE? So I would put an X on GE. I would set up my proportion. I like to put the numbers on the left side in the first fraction and match up the numbers on the right side. And when I cross multiply to get my answer, that's going to give me 4 times x is 4x, and 3 times 6 is 18. I want to use the division property of equality and divide both sides by 4 to eliminate the 4. So that tells me x equals 4.5. You do this one. The 2-column proof shows. Now we want to find the reason for step 6, all right? To me, it helps if I mark what's given to me in the picture. So if I read statement 2, AD is congruent to BD. This would be side AB and DD. And those are sides. I know that CD is congruent to CD, so the middle side is CD. That's also a side. That's marking statement 3. I know angle ADC and angle BDC are right angles. So that's my right angle. And that's an angle. That's why it would be C, angle side angle. On this one, make sure that you mark these angles in the picture and identify them. Make sure you do well on this, and hopefully you'll be ready to retake the test.